Let's get started. Good morning again, once again to everyone. Welcome to another class. So today we're gonna continue with 1.2. Just a brief question, quick question, revision question before we get started. Anyone remember what is the two categories of input devices? Because that is our focus.
Manual and automatic.
Half right, quarter right. You have the right idea, but looking for the correct name.
Some manual input devices and direct data entry.
Very good. Manual input devices and direct data entry devices. Those are the the two categories of input devices. And as someone just said, one is manual and the other is basically automatic. So you guys can remember that also because that's going to help you to remember how they function. All right, so when we had started, we looked at the keyboard and the keypad, we looked at the mouse. So today we're going to continue from the document scanner. All right, give me a second, let me pull up this list. Okay, so let's see. Jabez, can you read document scanner for us?
Document scanner. A scanner allows you to transfer pictures, graphics, and text to your computer. It scans the image from the top to bottom, one line at a time, and transfer it to the computer. You can then take the copy and use it in a program, send it as an email attachment, or print it.
Good. Has anyone ever used a document scanner? No one has one at home? No one has a printer at home that it has a flap top?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Your printer. So your printer, um, basically what happened in the past was that these devices, they basically were separate. So a document scanner. So a scanner by itself would look something like this here. A scanner by itself. So some would pass the document through what looks like a bar here. Some would what we some would be what we call a bed, a flat bed. So it would lie down the document would lie down on a flat surface and it would get scanned. So those are the document scanner. Now, but what persons realize is that it's commonly used, and then when you want to photocopy something, it's still you have to scan it, um, transfer it to your computer, and then print it through your printer. So what they did, they basically incorporated into your printer. Anyone knows what that kind of print? It starts with A. No one? All right. It's
Can you read the question?
what was that?
Can you read the question?
What are the printers called that have a scanner that can print?
No, no, no.
Okay. They're called all-in-one printers or AIO printers. Give me a second. For some reason, I'm choking. Yes, they're called all-in-one printers. You guys can take that down. So, AIO printers. And it would look very familiar to you. I'm sure some of you that have printers at home, you might have one looking like this here, or something looking like this here. Only if you're very rich, then you might have one looking like this in your home. But generally, you might have a printer looking like this here, where you
I have the exact same one.
right might
Same.
might not be exactly the same, but it usually has the same layout. Um, the top here would have a flat surface, a flat glass looking surface. I'm trying to see if I can get one with it open. I feel like I'm going through the same images over and over. Either way, but you guys, oh, this one here. So this cover here, it would raise up and you would see a flat surface underneath, and that is your scanning area. That's your document scanner. So when they're talking about here the document scanner, they're actually talking about the document scanner by itself. So that's going to be this device here, the document scanner by itself. But it can also refer to the scanner that you have on top of your printer. So that there, if you want to scan a document and you have a piece of paper, say you have a letter and you want to scan that document, what do you need to do with that document to get it in the computer? What would you have to do? Anybody that ever scanned, what do you have to do?
Sir, usually it plays the page or whatever, and there's usually a button that allows you to scan it. And
Good.
like that, this
Mm-hmm.
you put your book or whatever, the page on the or on the scanner, and then there's a button that allows you to scan, and a light passes.
Good. Good. So you have to physically put the book, you have to physically put the document, and then you would have to press a button either on the printer or on the scanner, or press a button on the computer. Sometimes the button might be a software on the computer, and you press that button and it scans the document into the computer. Now, why I asked that question is because remember we're looking at manual input devices. How is that data being transferred manually? You have to go and physically put that document. You have to go and use the scan button, transfer it into the computer, and then you have to go and maybe edit the document now, save it as a picture, save it as a PDF, maybe transfer it to somebody else because you're scanning it for somebody else. So you send it as an email, or you print it because you're making a photocopy. So you are doing all of the action there. You're transferring all of that data yourself. Good. Next, we have the microphone. And we're going to have Jaden. Can you read for us?
Microphone. Data can be entered into a computer through a microphone. The computer responds to this data by carrying out instructions such as printing a document or turning the spoken words into text in a word processor. These are called voice activated or voice response systems.
Good. So we all should be familiar with a microphone now. We use one on our computer. They come in all different shapes and sizes. So these are the ones that you might find on computers, even your phone, smartphone microphone. Okay, those are external ones. Let's see. Samsung microphone. Wait, show me. So this small device here, Samsung Note 10 microphone. This is the microphone that is on the Samsung Note 10. So they come in various sizes, but they perform basically the same action. They convert your voice into that digital sound that can be transferred into the computer, and then that sound could be recorded, it could be transferred to your friends, or it could be streamed over the internet so that you guys can hear right now. So if you basically did not speak, if you did not say anything, if you did not play any audio, then no sound would be transferred. So you have to speak in order for sound to be transferred. Now, two terms that you should take note of here is voice activated or voice response systems. Those are two terms you should take note of. They refer to systems that basically when you speak, something happens. I'm sure you guys know of an example of that,
Like Siri.
right? So they take in response and they perform certain actions. So, or voice activated system. So you could maybe tell your computer to print a document, tell your computer to turn on, turn off. Well, that's basically if it was set up for that, those those responses. So right, so you have to take note of those two terms. Some common examples when you are, it can turn spoken words into text in a computer. So instead of typing in a document, instead of typing inside of Microsoft Word, we could say something and it would appear on the screen. I wonder if Word. Text to speech. Okay. I guess that could be a research for another day. If Word has text to speech, so that when you say something, it can be converted to text inside of the Word document. Okay. So next we're going to look at the Digitizer. And Jeremiah, could you read for us?
Digitizers convert drawings and images into data. For example, a digital camera captures still and video images and stores them in an electronic format for printing and editing later. A webcam is a type of digital camera connected to a computer, typically for transmission of moving images over the internet or other network. Some computer users use webcams to see each other while chatting online, or for streaming live video. Other uses of webcam include monitoring traffic on highways and other surveillance.
The last paragraph.
Another type of digitizer is found in graphics tablet that can capture drawings and handwritten signatures. It is flat, touch sensitive drawing surface that uses a special pen called a stylus. Images from the graphics tablet are shown on on a monitor. When a when a transparent digitizer element of this kind overlays the screen, it allows direct interaction with the screen.
Very good. So, remember we're still looking at manual input devices, how data gets input manually, physically. So, we're at Digitizer now, and a Digitizer converts drawings or images into data. So, if you draw something, it's going to convert it into data on the device. If you take an image, it would convert it into data on the device. So, for example, a camera, when you take a picture, it is taking data from the real world and it is storing it into the device. Whether that be the camera or your phone, it's taking an image, it's taking a video, and it is storing that data, it's storing it as data in that device. A webcam is also another form of digital camera, which most of you would have right now, so that it can be used with a computer to transmit the images over the network. So when your other teachers want to basically see you, you would turn on that webcam so that they can be able to do so. Webcams can be used for chatting online and for streaming live videos. I'm sure some of you know about those. And webcams can also be used for monitoring traffic and surveillance. These uses are very important to remember. What are webcams used for? Chatting online, streaming live video, monitoring traffic, and surveillance. These are just some of the uses. Can you guys think of any other uses? What else would you use a webcam for?
Security?
Good, security. You guys ever heard of that the webcams that you can use on your door? So that I think it's Ring. Ring is one example.
Sir, I know what you're talking about.
Right. You walk up to the door and there's a camera there and you have the software on the device and it notifies you when somebody walks up to the door, shows you the video of the person walking up to the door, and when the person at the door, you can basically see it too. So, and even in our
Something like motion sensing.
right, and even in some vehicles today, we have dash cams that can be used to act as monitoring the traffic and how we're driving and so on. So those are some additional uses of the webcam. Now we have another digitizer, and that is the graphics tablet. Any of you ever had a chance of using a graphics tablet? It's basically a device that you would use to draw on. So these are some examples of graphics tablets.
Sir, I have one without the screen.
Oh, you have one without a screen? Okay, good. Actually, I commend persons that can use a graphics tablet without a screen because I honestly don't know how they are capable of drawing on a tablet like this here and matching it up with what was on the screen. If I was to ever choose a tablet, I would choose one with a screen. So that way you can basically see what you are drawing.
Sir, does a
Yes.
flip computer count as a graphic tablet if you turn it into tablet mode?
It would still, you can consider it, but it's still going to be considered a laptop because the main functionality of that device is a laptop. Whereas the main functionality of this device on the screen is for drawing. But that doesn't mean you cannot use it basically for drawing. But it's just it's gonna fall under the category of what is its main functionality. And then to even if your laptop can flip over and basically give you only the screen, the even if it is touch, it might not be as good at drawing as an actual graphics tablet because these graphics tablets, their surface, they're actually more sensitive. When you draw on them, it can actually detect different levels of pressure. So just like if you're writing, if you barely put your pen to the paper, you're gonna barely see any markings on the paper. But if you start pressing harder on the pen, then you're gonna see the pen appearing darker on the paper. So the same with these tablets, they detect different levels of pressure so that it helps a little more with drawing. Right, so going back to the paragraph, a graphics tablet is another form of digitizer. So it basically captures our drawings, our handwritings, and converts it into that data. So it is a flat, touch sensitive drawing surface, and it uses a device called a stylus. So just like how we might have a stylus for our phone, for our normal tablets, we would the graphics tablet also have a stylus that they would draw with, as you can see here. Looks almost like a pen. Good. So, and as mentioned, we have graphics tablet that does not have a display, and we also have graphics tablets that do have a display. So there are basically two types of graphics tablets. All right. Any questions? Any comments? Are you guys following so far? We looked at three devices so far: the document scanner, microphone, and digitizer. You guys following?
So,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I like how a graphics tablet doesn't have a screen. Sir, if it falls and it cracks.
If I didn't hear the question.
Sir, I like how a graphics tablet doesn't have a screen. If it
Right.
falls and it still cracks.
Um, it's possible because remember there's still electronics inside, and remember the surface still has to be basically touch sensitive. So say for instance the touch sensitive part was somehow disassembled during the fall, then yes, it can get damaged.
Okay, sir.
Remember there's other electronic parts inside. So if you look at graphic assembly, disassembly. Touch touch area is kind of like a tough plastic. Touch area for what? Your you have a graphics tablet or you have you referring to a computer?
Yes, sir. I have one without the screen,
Okay.
and it's not really like glass. It's more like what I said, a tough plastic.
Yeah, because remember it's only going to be glass if it has a display, but it's going to be that hard kind of plastic that you're referring to when it does not have a display. But I'm not seeing any internal LCD touch screen LCD. That's more for the ones with display. But this can give you an idea though. If you notice, the graphics tablet has layers of parts, the back cover, and then there's the board. So you might not have these two top parts here, but you might have this surface, this black surface here, and this is going to be your touch sensitive area. So basically, if this disassembles from the board, or basically if you get cracked, then it can also affect the performance of it. Something might not even work because it might have sensors going through it, and it might break the connections between the sensors. It all depends on how they were designed, basically. Alright, so moving on. So remember, those are manual input devices, and we have to use them manually in order for them to function. So next we're going to look at some touch sensitive devices. The first one is going to go to, let's see, Leroy.
Touch sensitive devices. A touchscreen is another way to input data. It is a screen that is sensitive to touch, so you do not need to use a keyboard or mouse. Banks, malls, and restaurants use touchscreen kiosks or what's it, sir?
Kiosks.
Kiosks or touch terminals to provide information to the public. Touchscreens are also commonplace on handheld devices such as a mobile phone and iPads.
Good. Let's see. Handheld devices. Good. So we all should be familiar with touchscreens. We have devices today that use touchscreen. We have our phones, we have our tablets, and we already know that they're touch sensitive. You touch them and something happens. You throw water on it and you see the screen glitch out. Any of you ever noticed that? When if a drop of water is on the touch screen, the screen is kind of jump.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
it
sir.
doesn't jump, but like it's do like a glitch effect.
Right,
But sometimes it still works.
right. It's doing that glitch effect because the water isn't moving. It's just stable. It's just staying there. It's detecting the water, but because there is no movement in the water, the screen is gonna glitch because when you try to move it now, it's gonna detect that the water's still there, and it might conflict with each other. It's gonna conflict with the touch. So that's why sometimes it glitches. Yes, Hakim? Yes, Hakim's typing something. Yes, but we know our touch screen would be. What about when I put my finger on the screen? Why doesn't it change? Well, it's not gonna glitch with your finger because your finger is only gonna be it's only going to be in one position. Basically, I think what has happened with the water does basically. You see, for us, this is like a technical subject. You gotta understand how touchscreens work. Touchscreens work by basically, some of them work by detecting electrical signals. And the water now is conducting that electrical signal. It's detecting, and basically, if it covers a more wider area than a normal touch surface. So, say for example, this is your display, and this is your finger. So your finger might only touch like this small piece of surface here, or sometimes even maybe smaller. So it would detect that. But the water now, the water, it might sometimes it might connect um with other surfaces, and that way now. So when you go and put your finger, it's detecting this water and the more wider coverage that it has. And when you try to move your finger now, it's going to clash basically between the two electrical signals that it's detecting, and that's why sometimes it might glitch. If it's your finger doesn't have so much of you can see like a surface, that a surface coverage as compared to maybe a water drop that it might have. It, it's basically how the touch was this designed also, because not all of them work with basically detecting electricity. I think some of them are just basically working with touch sensitive pressure instead of electricity. That's why certain stylus don't work with certain devices. You guys ever notice that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, something I did realize was sometimes if you press down hard enough on certain devices, the screen would glitch out.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to do that. Remember, the touch is supposed to be it's not actually a hard surface. It's a soft surface. That's why we have a glass on top of our devices to help protect that surface. So if you press too hard, it's going to basically, you're going to be pressing on the display and the touch, and that's going to cause it to glitch. It's just a glass that's actually protecting your phone. That's why companies, they're trying to make glass. Each year they're trying to make different versions of glass so that they get stronger and stronger, because that's what's protecting your touch and that's what's protecting your display.
Okay, sir.
So where were we? So we were talking about touch sensitive devices. We're familiar with them. Now, where uses touch sensitive devices? Well, banks would use it, malls, restaurants. Important to remember. They use what is called kiosks or touch terminals. For example, some ATMs, they allow you to touch the screen. You guys ever saw one of that? Your parents ever take you to an ATM?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Some of them, not all of them, some of them would allow you to touch a screen. I think Republic Bank had updated to that you can touch a screen recently. Um, when you go to restaurants, like fast food restaurants, like DQ, churches, what do you notice them doing?
Touching the screens a lot.
Right. They're touching the screen. So they're using a touch terminal so that they can input the data. So touch terminals, we can say touch screens, they have a more advantage over using a keyboard and a mouse. Do you think it would be, so like this is an example here. Would it be effective, which you think would be more effective, for them to continue to use the touch screen, or should they use a keyboard and a mouse?
I think they should use it, sir.
And why would you say
Sir,
that?
it would depend.
Sir, because it's far easier
Good,
to have to type on the keyboard.
good. Well, it depends.
Sir, it depends on what they are doing.
It would depend, right? But it would depend on if they need to type in data But remember, this is a fast food. This is a restaurant. Everything has to be functioning fast movements. So
But sir,
yes,
I like how they have the touch screen. So I don't, when they have a keyboard on the screen and they could still touch with their finger.
we you see you're asking that question because we are thinking that they need to put in data. That's what I was getting at. These services, they don't need to type in data like how on a computer we would have to type in on a document. They don't need to do that. Yes, they're going to need to put in the amount and uh, and so on, but they don't need a full size keyboard in order to do that. They don't need to type out the entire name of the item, so they don't need a full size keyboard. So that is why what you're seeing on the screen is basically a custom software, a software that was developed so that these buttons that you're seeing here is acting as the input. They're acting just like how on your phone has an on-screen keyboard, and when you press a letter, it appears. These you can compare each one of these buttons here to a letter on the keyboard. So instead of having to manually type in everything, the software now is going to basically program maybe an item to a button. So that's why the touch it's more effective for this situation because somebody already programmed the software so that when they press this on the screen, it's going to be for the fries. When they press another button, it's going to be for the legs, and then maybe something on the side is going to come up for them to indicate how much or what is the amount, and they basically it might be an on-screen keypad whereby they see the numbers 9, 8, 7, and they press the number, or maybe it might have an up and down arrow for them to increase and decrease the number. It all depends upon the software. But the software developer, they're gonna cover everything. They're gonna ensure that whatever they need to input, it can be easily accessed by touching the screen. And it makes it much faster compared to having a full-size keyboard and mouse. Any other questions and input?
So, what if the touch screen goes unresponsive?
Well, if it goes unresponsive, then that means either you get a new device or you try to get somebody to fix it. But just like how if your keyboard goes bad and your mouse goes bad, remember that's our main form of input. We for a keyboard and a mouse, we could check to see if it's connected or if it's disconnected. But for a touch screen, they cannot check because remember it's built into the device. So they would have to get a technician to check to see maybe if the connection got loose, and they would physically connect it back again, or maybe the display itself is going bad. The touch.
Okay, sir.
All right. So our next touch sensitive device is the touchpad. Next we're gonna have, I think it's Kristen. Can you read for us?
A touchpad is a flat rectangular surface which also senses the movement of one or more fingers on its surface. These devices are usually found on laptop and notebooks, computers, and function as a mouse does to move a pointer.
Good. So we have a touchpad. Anybody know what's the other name? I think you guys should know. There's another name we call the touchpad. No one? It also starts with T. Yes, that is correct. The trackpad. So the touchpad or the trackpad. So you guys can take note of that. refers to the same thing. It's a flat rectangular surface that detects the movement of your finger. So it's usually on your laptops, that flat surface that you move with your finger, that you move across your finger, and it moves the cursor on the screen. That is your trackpad. It's a touch sensitive device. Now, as mentioned, it can be found on laptops, notebook computers, and it functions like the mouse. So just like how you have a mouse, your desktop would have a mouse, and when you move it, it moves the cursor. The trackpad moves the cursor on a laptop or a notebook. Great, so those are two such sensitive devices. Any questions and input before we move on? Alright, so our next manual input device is the pointing device. Lashante, can you read for us? Lashante, quick.
Pointing devices. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Po- Pointing devices. A light pen is similar to a mouse, but is rarely used since touch sensitive devices have replaced it. A variation of the light pen is a stylus, which is a small pen like device with a plastic or felt tip that uses pressure instead of ink. A stylus is used to draw on graphics, tablets, or type on touchscreens to avoid using fingers on the screen.
Good. So please remember that for these devices, please remember that if you're going to write IT at CSEC, everything that you're learning throughout third form will be on your CSEC exam. So that's why it's important for you to try to understand all of these concepts and all of these features and devices and everything now. So I'm letting you know from now that all of these devices that you're learning about, it's important to know what they are used for and how they are used and how they function. So for example, a digitizer, you have to remember, for example, the digitizer, you have to remember that it converts drawings and images into data. For touch screen, it is used as a touch sensitive device so that you can choose options maybe on a menu or move the cursor on a screen and so on. So you have to remember how these devices function, what do they do, what they are used for. So a pointing device, as the name indicates, it is used to point. A lot of the things in IT, as I mentioned already, the names basically indicate what they are used for. So the example of the um, pointing device is that light pen. Let me download it so that you guys can see it better. Okay. So this is an example of someone using a light pen. So the light pen was used as a pointing device. If you notice, anybody notice anything on the screen? Take a good look at it. What is missing from the screen?
Color.
Very good, but other than that, what device is missing?
There a mouse.
A mouse.
With-
That is what
Yeah, mouse.
that is what is missing there. So if you notice, there's only one cable here coming out to the computer. She has a keyboard, but there is no mouse. And if you actually look on the screen, you can notice there is no cursor. Because in the past, when persons would have used computers, we're actually going to learn this later on. There was no cursor, there was no images. Computers didn't have all of these fancy things that we have today of images and videos and animations and cursors and menus and all of that. Computers didn't have all of that in the past. It was just text on a screen. So they use the light pen basically to highlight or to select whatever they want or to basically point to wherever they want to work from. So if she wanted to highlight something, she could have used the pen. If she wanted to basically put the cursor somewhere, she would use the pen also. So the pen was basically her mouse. Now, because of getting touch sensitive devices where we can basically touch a screen and then we basically got the mouse, it would have replaced that light pen, so we don't see it anymore. But a variation of it is our stylus, because even though we get touch sensitive devices like our touch screen, we still use our finger. We use our fingers to touch the screen, but using our finger can be a bit annoying at times, and using a pen sometimes comes more naturally to us. So that stylus, that's why it's in use today, because it helps us to use our devices a little more comfortable. We can use our tablets, our phones even with those, even our laptops with those stylus. Now, how does the stylus work? Well, it works by detecting pressure. It doesn't use any ink. It detects pressure. So the pressure might be on the screen, as mentioned earlier for the digitizer. If you press too hard, the drawing might appear deeper, but if you press light, it might appear smaller. Why isn't this working? If you press light, it might appear smaller, like how you're seeing on the screen here. So that is pointing devices, the light pen, the stylus. So next we have remote control devices. And we're going to have Mikhail, can you read for us?
These devices send data through signal each time a button is pressed on a device. The signal is received by another device who processes the instruction. Remote control devices are used to change television and radio station channels, open electronic gates, and manage slide presentation.
So remote control devices, you guys should be familiar with this also. It is used to send a signal to a device when you press a button. So your TV remote, your AC remote, your fan remote, they send a signal to the device and the device would process that signal, whatever instruction that signal would be given. So for example, your television remote, when you press the power button, that signal is sent and the TV turns on. For those who have the fancy gates, when you press the button on the remote, the gate slides open and you drive into the yard. Even some presentation slides, some presentation software, when you press a button on a remote, it changes the slide on the screen. So remember, we're looking at manual input devices and how we have to physically operate all of these devices to transfer the data. So next we are going to look at biometric systems. Omadai, can you read for us? Do we have Omadai? Same early break. Rashan.
Biometric systems. These systems use some part of a person's body to uniquely identify them. There are two types of biometric systems that can identify someone. One is related to some aspect of the body using, for example, fingerprints, face or iris recognition, as well as size and shape of the hand. These characteristics are consistent and rarely change shape. In contrast, a person's signature and tone or pitch of voice are related to the person's behavior. For example, if you are nervous, then your signature or voice may change.
Good. So a biometric system. A biometric system is basically used to identify someone. So does your phone and your tablet have a biometric system?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
sir.
What
Yes, sir.
what system does it have?
Fingerprints, face recognition.
Good. One more.
Sir, it has a pin.
A what?
A pin number which you would have to enter, or a pattern.
Good. But there's
Your iris.
iris and there's also voice. Good. So you guys have the idea. A biometric system is used to identify someone, but please note that these systems use a part of a person's body. That's the main thing to remember. Biometric systems use a part of a person's body. So that can be your fingerprint, as mentioned. It can be your face. It can be your iris. It can even be your voice. Well, not your voice, because that really is not a part of your body. Um, so your fingerprint, your face, your iris, whatever part of your body it wants to scan to identify you, it can be used. Now, if
Sir,
yes,
sir, face recognition is not something you should be really using.
true, it has its downfalls. So, in addition to your fingerprint, your face, and your iris, the size and shape of your hand can also be used. So not only your fingerprints, but they can scan your entire hand and the size of it so that they can identify you. Anybody wants to add to why Blair said that we shouldn't use face
For
to
example, like if you get into accident and you hit your head and you had to get surgery or something like that.
yeah,
Sir, that's not the reason I say
There are
face
different
recognition isn't
lightings,
good.
yeah,
different lightings in the area.
Excuse me, sir. Adding to what Delisha said, even if you did have a surgery, there is something called alternative face ID, so you could always use that.
yeah, true.
Sir, the main reason I said face recognition isn't good because some people look alike.
Right,
And face recognition is go by pretty sure your head and not mainly your face.
right. So that's the disadvantage of face recognition. The persons look alike. Our fingerprint and our iris. I'm not sure about the iris, but our fingerprint. That's why fingerprints are used so commonly by police because it's very unique to a person. So, but unlike our face, we can basically look similar to another person. Somewhere in the world, somebody might look exactly like you.
Excuse me, sir. And also, if you're wearing a mask, it wouldn't pick up, or like if you're wearing a sunglass or a hat or so, it wouldn't pick you up properly.
Right, that's correct. So, All of these systems, they have their advantage, they have their disadvantage, they have ways that they will work, they have ways that they will not work. And some of these systems, they're not that perfect also, because for example, for the face recognition, some of them, they basically can work with an image. You can put somebody's picture and they would scan it and still work, because the system wasn't designed to differentiate between a real 3D person and a image. That's basically why iPhone has that LiDAR sensor. The LiDAR sensor is to help with detecting depth. So basically you can build a 3D version of you. So it basically shines a bunch of lasers onto you. Apple LiDAR sensor scanner. There was an image. That showed it with a woman's face. Basically, it's something like this here. It shines a bunch of lasers, a bunch of lights, like this here, onto the person, and light travels at a certain speed. So, and when it bounces back, it's basically technical knowledge. When it bounces back, you can detect the difference and basically do some calculations, and it can detect the depth and basically build that 3D version of the face, and that's how we can tell if whoever's standing in front of it, if it's a real person or if it's actually image, a 2D image. So biometric systems, you have to physically be there to transfer your data. Once again, manual input device. Now, why are they better than a person's signature, a person's tone, or a person's voice? Well, because those depend on your behavior. If you are nervous, you're going to speak a certain way. If you're nervous, you're going to write a certain way. And as we grow, as society continues to change us, we tend to change in our thinking and our personality, so our signature might change. We might sign a different way, we might even forget how we used to sign, and we basically lose that pattern of signature. But whereas our fingerprint, our iris, our face, we have those basically permanently once nobody destroys it. All right, any other questions, input, comments? All right, so in conclusion of what we looked at today we basically wrapped up manual input devices. Remember, manual input device, you have to transfer the data yourself. You have to do it manually. So keyboard and keypad, a mouse, a document scanner, a microphone, a digitizer, a webcam, um, let's see, a touch sensitive device such as the touch screen, touchpad and trackpad, the pointing devices, the light pen, the stylus, remote control devices, basically remotes. And then lastly, we looked at biometric systems. So next week, we're going to try to wrap up direct data entry devices. What is direct data entry device and how those devices basically function. Alright, so we're going to end here for today. If you guys don't have any questions, enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, sir.
Goodbye.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye.